You know that weird feeling when you're talking to an AI that can write a perfect poem or, I don't know, debug some crazy complex code, but then it gives you the worst movie recommendation you've ever heard? It's like, how can it be so smart and so clueless at the exact same time? Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens and look at a brand new system that might just fix this whole problem for good. It really all boils down to this one question. How can something with like the entire internet's worth of information in its brain fail at what seems like a pretty simple task? The answer, as it turns out, is that recommendation AI kinda has a split personality. So let's get right into it. To really wrap your head around the problem, you gotta know that behind the scenes, there are basically two different AIs working together. You can think of them as two different brains that up until now have been really bad at talking to each other. Okay, so on one side, you've got the language whiz. This is your large language model, your LLM. Think of it like a super knowledgeable film historian. It's read every review, it knows every single plot detail, it can have a really intelligent conversation with you. The big problem? Its knowledge is frozen in time, usually from like 2022. It has absolutely no idea what's trending right now. And on the other side, you've got the trend spotter. This thing uses a technique called collaborative filtering, and it is a master of popularity. It knows that people who liked movie A also went nuts for movie B. It's awesome for finding new and popular stuff, but it has zero conversational skills. It doesn't get the nuance of why you're asking, it just sees patterns. So, how in the world do you fix this? Well, this is where a brand new approach called CRAG comes into play. It's designed to get these two separate brains to finally work together. It's kind of like teaching that super smart film historian a few new tricks from the cool trend-spotting algorithm. CRAG. It stands for Collaborative Retrieval Augmented Generation. I know it's a total mouthful, but what's really important here, and what the researchers are so excited about, is that it's the very first system to successfully merge these two worlds. You get the deep conversational genius of the language whiz with the real-time crowdsourced smarts of the trend spotter. And the goal here is actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. You give that brilliant language whiz access to all the up-to-the-minute data from the trend spotter. But, and this is the most important part, you also have to give it the wisdom, the common sense to know how and when to use that data. That is the real game changer. So how does CRAG actually do this? Well, it's not magic. It's a really clever three-step process for building a much smarter recommendation from the ground up. Okay, step one is entity linking. That's just a fancy way of saying the AI is smart enough to know you mean the Batman movie when you type Dark Knight, even if you spell it wrong. Step two is collaborative retrieval. This is where it pulls that raw list of popular movies based on what other people liked. But the real magic, the secret sauce, happens in step three, reflect and re-rank. This is where the AI actually stops for a second and thinks about the suggestions it's about to give you. Let's see how this plays out. Say you ask for top-tier Brazilian films, and you mention you love City of God. Okay, so the trend spotter does its thing and spits out a raw list based on stats. You get a couple of good ones, sure, like The Enemy Within and Neighboring Sounds, but you also get movies like Titane and Possessor. Now, those are great films for sure, but they're not Brazilian. A naive AI would just hand you this list, and this is exactly where things usually go wrong. But this is where CRAG steps in and does something brilliant. It has a common sense check. The language whiz part of the brain looks at that raw list from the trend spotter and basically goes, hold on a sec. The user specifically asked for Brazilian films. Is everything on this list actually relevant? This is that first crucial moment of reflection. And after that moment of reflection, CRAG basically cleans house. It keeps the suggestions that actually make sense, but then it does something else. Now that its own vast knowledge has been triggered, it can generate brand new ideas that fit perfectly, like the awesome Brazilian action movie, Elite Squad. But wait, it doesn't stop there. This brings us to the second moment of reflection, which is just as important. The AI now has a really solid list of candidates, but it asks another smart question. Okay, these are all good, but which one is the absolute best recommendation to give them first? See, it's not just about finding relevant movies. It's about figuring out the most helpful one to start the conversation. This re-ranking step is what makes the final recommendation feel so much more thoughtful and intelligent. So, all of this sounds great in theory, right? This clever reflection and re-ranking. But does it actually work? Well, the researchers put it to the test. Let's take a look at the data.
And the results are actually pretty fascinating. CRAG definitely improves recommendations across the board, but look at where it has the biggest impact, on newer movies. We're talking about films released after the LLM's knowledge cutoff date. This is a huge deal. This is precisely where that language whiz AI falls flat on its face. By pulling in the TrendSpotter's real-time data and then thinking about it, CRAG totally fixes the biggest blind spot in today's AI recommenders.
So let's just sum up the key takeaways here. First, CRAG is way, way better than a standard AI just trying to guess. And get this, the study found that if you just dump the TrendSpotter's data into the prompt without those smart reflection steps, you actually make the AI's recommendations worse. That tells you that the process of reflecting and re-ranking isn't just a nice little feature, it's absolutely essential. And again, the biggest wins are on those recent movies that the AI would otherwise be totally clueless about.
Okay, so what does all this mean for the future? This isn't just some small technical tweak. This research really points to a fundamental shift in how we're all going to interact with AI recommenders.
What CRAG really represents is a move away from recommendations that feel like a cold, hard calculation. Instead, it's about creating an experience that feels more like you're getting advice from a friend who's a true film expert. You know, someone who understands the art of filmmaking, but also knows what's popular right now and can combine all that to give you the perfect suggestion just for you.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We are right on the edge of AI that can do so much more than just match patterns in a database. With systems like CRAG, we're building AIs that can actually apply context and reason and common sense. So just think about it. What if the next time you ask for a recommendation, the AI didn't just know what you like, but it could finally start to understand why you like it? Now that is a future that is definitely worth watching.